Number one, what's the biggest risk that you've ever taken in ministry?
I left corporate to go actually be the executive pastor of my church.
A big, was that a big financial risk and family risk, all that?
Yes, big financial risk, big, I think, family risk. When I did it, it was not it was not a common occurrence at that moment in time for people in corporate to come out and go into ministry. Now it's fairly common, but when I did it, it was somewhat unusual. So that was a risk for our church, because a lot of the church staff didn't understand, hey, who's this guy that's coming out of corporate and doesn't have a ministry background, coming to basically being the number 2 on the org chart. So there was a huge risk, not just for me, but for the senior pastor and the church as well.
What is something that you see in the church that makes you angry or upset?
Definitive statements about this. I don't know how to express this, because this is kind of what's going on in culture. Nationalism, political beliefs. So when we make this, how can you be a Christian and believe this? How can you be a Christian and vote for those things that the church is politicizing? A lot of that's making me angry and very, discouraged about some of those, because that is not what the church fought against and stood up against all these things. And now we're trying to politicize the church.
Number 3, what superpower would you like to have? Come on, go for it.
Superpower. I just want the cool toys that Batman had.
Gadgets.
All the gadgets. I just want those.
Gotcha. All right. What word or phrase in the church do you hate?
I've tried really hard to purge my vocabulary of all the churchy words.
I know I'm making you think here. Sorry.
I know. I'm trying to think. What did we always say that turned off guests? And we had done actually a good job at our last church of trying to not speak in churchy. So I've been kind of indoctrinated against some of that stuff for a while. So I'm having a hard time of thinking of.
Yeah, I think we can generalize that and just say, and say that I think the Christianese in general, it can be a turnoff.
Yeah.
This language that only, you got to be in the club.
Well, and this isn't a churchese, but if a guest comes in the room and they've never been in church before, here's some of the things that just go on in church that I think are kind of interesting. Not that they're wrong, they're just interesting. The agreeing. Why are people mooing? Why do people rate? Okay, now I grew up in a very conservative, church, so clapping and raising hands was very new to me when I left home and went to other churches. But if you are not used to that and going into a church, people are looking around going, "What am I doing wrong, or what am I missing that they're experiencing that I'm not?" And it's not that, they just don't know it yet. They just haven't experienced, or that's just how they like to express themselves. But some of those things are, just interesting to, from an outsider to come in and experience. The other thing that I never understood is, hey, stand up and shake somebody's hand and tell them how much you'd like to see them today. It's like, if I'm a guest, if I don't know anybody, I don't want to shake anybody's hand. I just came in here to hide, to figure out what is this thing they're doing. And now they want me to talk to people I don't know.
Right. Now you've just spotlighted me.
Yeah.
All right. Last one. What is the number one thing that you hear pastors struggling with right now as you counsel them?
Depression, anxiety, isolation. That right there. And it's not just them, it's their spouses and family. So I had a note from a pastor's wife last year. And with Full Strength Network, we give counseling. We also give counseling to the spouses and the family. And she wrote me a note. And it was interesting because, first off, no one ever sends handwritten notes anymore. And I got a handwritten note. And her comment was, I was dying in the field before. And I knew this family. They looked perfect from the outside. And but she was just going through so much depression and anxiety and loneliness and isolation that it was the word I was dying. And so, and I don't think that is uncommon for a lot of people in ministry right now, especially with coming out of the season and the culture that we're in. I'm scared to take a stand, which I know might be biblical, or I think is biblical, but I'm trying to not say things or do things that will put even a bigger bullseye on my back right now, type of thing. So,
yeah, I think it's bringing up the spouse is such a good point, because my wife has experienced this. It's one thing for you to deal with something. It's another thing to watch your loved one, your spouse, deal with something and you can't say a thing about it.
No.
Your spouse that's on staff can, and in certain circumstances and express, but the wife or the husband has to just stand back and watch. You get beat on occasionally. I
remember my wife would come home, or I'd come home on a Sunday, and all of a sudden she'd go, "Hey, how come these people don't talk to me anymore?" And I have no idea why they did. It was the way we joked about it internally, or the way we joked about it and dealt with it was, well, because your husband's a jerk. I used a different word, but that was our own internal way of dealing with. I have no idea why people are ignoring us now, or not talking to you, or treating you poorly. I have no idea.
Get on the no list.
Yeah, but now we are, and that was not a one-time occurrence.
No. Well, man, thank you for your time. I know this is a heavy topic for people. I think a lot of people are resonating with what we've talked about today. In fact, it's so interesting. I've hired a lot of people out of church world in the last few years, and that's usually the case. I want to do ministry. I want to serve the Lord in the kingdom, but without the politics, one, and two, just the isolation and loneliness I feel when I'm on a church staff. And so I hope that's not the case in other ministries, although I know it is. But there's something about a church staff that can focus that, I think, or that we see a lot of struggling folks. So, well, man, how can we get in touch with you if there's a pastor that is struggling, that resonated with what we talked about today? It doesn't have to be I want people to know pastor does not have to be in your title.
Right.
If you are on staff at a church or in ministry in some capacity, would love for you to reach out to Marty and the Full Strength Network. So tell us how we can get a hold of you guys.
Sure. The best and easiest way is to go to our website at fullstrength.org. So that's the quickest, easiest way, the most anonymous, the safest way to get connected with us.
Good. Well, Marty, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Carl.